jump into preparing for and setting up the advance. Gina, do you, in your mind, do you have an ideal time for advancing a show? And has that changed in the last few years?
Every individual element of the advance is, a little different. And a lot of the time that's dictated by the contract with that vendor. For us, we generally make contracts. If it's a big order, say the radios, you're estimating what you need, and then you need to go back and actually figure out what you need. So with most of my vendor contracts, I like to define the drop dead date of when do we need to give you changes to that number, so that they can plan accordingly for the show. And so then I like to work backwards of when does the vendor need that final number, and then also on the opposite side, when are all the staff hired? When are the managers hired? Do they have enough time to do what they need to do to get the right information to tell you? So, for a big project, maybe that's 3 months away from show, that deadlines are due when you're hiring them, maybe 6 months out. It's really fluid. Sometimes you only have 3 months to produce something, and it all just kind of happens really fast. But I think it's important to always identify when does the end user need that info to move forward with that info. Whether it's catering, at some point they have to buy the food and make sure they have what they need. And so it's really working on that individual level. In general, I don't put the same advanced deadline for everything because some have more flexibility in that. Sometimes you need to know sooner, sometimes you have flexibility. So keeping that a little fluid, but just giving yourself enough time for the staff to figure out what they need to ask for you to have enough time to review, audit, and approve that. If you're not approving that, then enough time to communicate that so they can make other plans, and then enough time to get it to the vendor to actually execute what you're needing.
And Evan, how is that similar or different to your approach? And any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarity there in that, as someone who's been a database manager and who has really centralized this process, I'm not setting the deadlines. I'm relying on the operations team and the individual asset managers that are placing those orders to determine those timelines, because I can make up dates, but if the date is not realistic to when the order needs to go in to be advantageous on pricing or deal with supply chain issues or anything else. So, usually start with the management in the operations department and with the individual asset managers to put together a deadline schedule and each year, if it's a brand new event, it's trying to be critical and thinking of when these deadlines need to occur. If it's a recurring event or an event that's happened before, it's what can we learn from the previous year? Did we do this in a timely fashion? Did we not? But it's also too understanding and really engaging the asset managers, because they are doing different jobs. It's one thing to say I need this many widgets and just trying to determine that number. It's another thing if you're dealing with something like heavy equipment where you are really trying to put together a schedule, because you're not going to get a piece of heavy equipment that is unique to everyone that requested. You're trying to build a schedule and understand that this equipment is going to be shared between the different teams that are using it, and also understanding whether or not they have a thing like an operator or not. I mean, it's one thing to ask for a forklift, but can they actually use it? Or are they expecting someone from the team to help them use this forklift? So, I really try to engage the asset managers on what is the deadline, when are they placing the order, how are we capturing the data to where it's meaningful to you. There is no one size fits all on making a request across all of the kind of hard assets. So it is really engaging them and having them think critically about what is meaningful to me. I don't need to know where this is going because they're coming up and picking it up from me. So I don't need to ask that question in the request process.